Hey guys, how's it going? It's Kiro, and today I wanted to make sure you guys understand that it really is about the basics, right? Like we always see online about the newest trend, this diet, that diet, the keto diet, the intense calorie deficit diet, aggressive diet. We see all these terms, but truth be told, a lot of that is just for likes and views. So many people just love attention on social media and they just like to dispute out whatever is trending. And so that puts a lot of people in a little bit of confusion on how to exactly look at calories, because now we tend to kind of look at calories as some sort of, you know, trend, like, oh, this calorie, try that diet, try this diet. But calories is actually very simple and people just love to overcomplicate it, because as someone that's been lifting for 4+ years, right, this doesn't include the inconsistent lifting, right? I've been lifting for quite a while and I faced this trouble. When I first started lifting, I was like, how do I make this work? Because for me, not only was it the constant trends you see online about like keto diet and all these diets, but it's also eating South Asian food, right? Like imagine like you have to go to your parents' house on the weekends, like you're cooking your own food, during the weekend, and then on the weekends you want to go meet your parents, and they come up with like so South Asian like curry. It's like, how do I even make that work? So that on top of what's already confusing on social media made it very hard for me, because it's like, when you look at it from like an outside perspective, it's like, oh, I just need to lose weight. But when you're in the moment, it's frustration, right? Not seeing results, restarting every time, right? Like people doubting you, like, oh, he's been trying to lose fat for 10 years, he still hasn't done it. That frustration, I was in that position. And so seeing these trends and seeing that there wasn't anything suitable for also the South Asian side of diet, it made it very almost like impossible, to the point where I felt like I just wanted to feel energized again. It was never like I wanted to get lean with muscle, because my perception of getting in shape was so far from even thinking about the position I'm in now. Like I wouldn't have thought I would have actually been able to get abs 4 years ago, because of all the things that's always been told online, right? And that's one of the biggest things of overcoming all the nonsense that's online and really just working towards something that actually drives results. And so it's very important you look at calories and just look at calories for what calories are in. And I'm going to break through exactly how to go about calories. What is calories? How do you structure calories? Why am I thinking I'm at, 2,000 calories but not losing fat? These are all factors you need to really understand. And I'm going to break down each specific one throughout this video. And hopefully you get a better understanding of what calories are. Might seem like a basic topic, but I promise you, the basics are what genuinely get you results. Right. And I'm sure you notice this in other areas of life as well, whether that is, even with your career, right? If you go to your boss and he tells you to do a piece of task and you don't get the task done, but you do something more advanced, you'd be like, get the fucking task done, right? So it's just like doing the basics and getting the task done that actually drives results. And so the problem is how we think about calories, right? So people like to say, oh, it's calories in versus calories out. Turn the wrapper around, look at how much calories they are. Oh, it's 200 calories, you can fit it, and you come up with a 2,000 calorie diet. You see, as that's just of the mindset of someone that just wants to lose weight. I'm sure you don't just want to lose weight. You want to lose fat and you want to build muscle and feel energized and make your life be elevated by fitness. I have a lot of guys that come to me and say, yo, I've lost 20 pounds. I've lost 30 pounds. I'm doing great. But it's like you lost 20 pounds of weight. You didn't feel good during that time. And it pretty much consumed you to the point where you never felt good, right? You've always felt depleted during that cut. And then you gained it right back because it was never sustainable to begin with. And so calories in versus calories out is a very dumb concept. And again, if it's trending on social media, people are going to talk about it. And so it's like, oh, the new trend. But in reality, that's not how it works, right? Yeah, that's how it works to lose weight. But when you want to really prioritize your energy levels, because that's a huge reason why people want to lose fat, right? No one wants to lose fat just for the sake of it. Just like most people, when you ask them why you want to lose fat, it's not for getting abs and muscle. It's more so to feel good again, to have energy, to wake up in the morning and feel refreshed, right? To have that the main character aspect of like victory. Like I wake up, I feel good, and I'm ready to go, right? That's why many people want to lose fat, right? And so when you just look at calories in versus calories out, you could eat 10 pieces of donut and still lose fat, right? Like it can fit calories in and calories out, but it's a difference on how you approach life, and you really need to lay this foundation now, because if you don't do this now, it's going to be very hard to accept it, because life only gets busier. You're only going to come with more obstacles as time goes, and so it's very important you lay these foundations now. And so, you know, especially when you're fixating on the calorie count, right? So like I mentioned with the example of donuts. Let's say you eat 10 donuts, and that's like, I don't know, 2,500 calories. Let's just say, right? Let's just say, right, like, it's 2,500 calories. And so if 2,500 calories is your maintenance calories, so maintenance calories are pretty much the calories you would eat to stay at the same body fat. So let's say you're a 165-pound male, and 2,500 is according to the TDEE calculator, which pretty much disputes your maintenance calories. It's never accurate. That's why you have to track it. I'll go more in detail with that later. But let's say that is your maintenance calories. You eat that calorie, you feel horrible, but you don't see your weight going down, so you think it's okay. But your life is horrible. If your life is horrible, it doesn't matter if you're in shape or not, because you need to feel good. And so when you're constantly focusing on this calorie, you think you're achieving success, you think you're achieving towards your fat loss goals, but reality is making it worse because you're still going in that feeling of low energy and the feeling of not feeling good, right? That's the biggest factor why you want to lose fat, not just lose weight, because you can do that by the calorie deficit. And so it's very important that you look at it in terms of long term, right? If I'm going in 1,000 calorie deficit, like just eat, or just eating 1,000 calories, let alone, like some people do that. They come to me like, oh, I eat 1,000 calories, I go for 2 weeks, then I quit. There's several factors to that. Number one, you need to make sure you're actually eating 1,000 calories, and number two, that's not long term, right? Because you can lose fat by eating 1,500 calories every day, but do you want to eat 1,500 calories when you're 35 or 40 or 50? I don't think so, right? You want to have a barbecue with your family. Do you want to say, I can't eat that because I have to stay at 1,500 calories? I don't think so, right? And so it's important that you think about the long term. You eat so you feel energized, so you can continue building muscle and losing fat. The whole point of fat loss is not just losing weight, but to replace it with muscle. Because that's when you can still eat a lot of calories and still remain. That's why you see a lot of South Asians out of shape. Because when they try to lose fat, they just go on the treadmill and they try and lose fat, right? But in reality, they never built muscle to eat calories, to eat food. They can't eat food, right? So when you do a lot of a lot of cardio, you're going to get hungry. You're going to want to eat more, and since you want to eat more and you don't have any muscle, you just go in a cycle of doing a lot of cardio, getting sore, and repeating that. But when you move with intention, not look at calories for just the number, but also your performance, so you can improve in your lifts, that's when you can replace the muscle with actually with actually you can replace the fat with actual muscle, right? And you see this a lot with marketing tactics, right? They might be like high in protein, and it'll be protein chips, right? Sure, there's protein in there. Sure, you get your macro goals, but are you gonna feel energized? Because what these protein chips don't have are micronutrients. So micronutrients are like vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin B, um, you know, your cholesterol, good cholesterol, like all these things, your micronutrients, right? And so when I track for my clients, I track their macros and their micros. So macros are fats, protein, carbs. Micros are everything else listed. And so we track these intensely because my goal is to make sure you feel energized, right? And so if you just listen to the protein chips and they say like 20 pounds, 20 grams of protein, great, you got your protein goal, but you still don't feel energy. You still feel horrible. You don't feel full. You want to eat another five of them. You see how it's a trap by the marketing trend of just calories in, calories out? Because whatever is trending is what people will follow. And so marketing companies started to realize this and they started marketing it as low in calorie, high in protein. But it's doing you more worse than good because even after you eat it, you still feel hungry and no energy. And so that's why you need to look at actually eating foods that benefit you. And so before you need to understand what a calorie is, right? Like what is a calorie? It's a number, but calorie is just a unit of energy. And so you might notice sometimes you eat a lot of food and then the next day you have, if you go to the gym, right, you might go gym inconsistently or consistently, and you might notice you're getting stronger the next day. Or let's say someone that is overweight and they think they're getting stronger, or let's say the power lifters, they get fatter and they get stronger and they think they're building muscle. But in reality, they just have more energy because calories are an energy and it's allowing them to get strong, right? So there's a difference between getting fat and getting stronger versus building muscle and getting stronger. Two different things. And a lot of people fall into the first category because they just get fat. So this is something that needs to be talked about, which is why does binge eating happen, right? And you see this very often and very common amongst many people. And the biggest thing on why this happens is because they try to follow a diet that was never planned for them. They see something online and it's just like, try this diet, try my diet. If I give you my diet, it's probably not going to work for you, right? Because you need to look at several factors, and that includes your work schedule, your family stress, your like going on a calorie that you can actually sustain. And so let's break down each individual thing, right? So let's talk about work schedule, right? I coach a lot of engineers. And so the biggest thing for them is they're going to have weeks where it's intense. They're going to have weeks which is not intense. I have a physiotherapist as well. And so physiotherapist and a physician. So both of them have like long hour shifts. So it'll be like for a couple weeks, it'll be like 12-hour shifts and then they'd have time off after that. And so it's very important that you look into your schedule and build it around that time. So what I mean is like, let's say you're an engineer and you have 3 days that are very intense and the other 4 days aren't as intense. And obviously the 4 days includes your weekends. We would go in more of a calorie deficit on those 4 days and less of a calorie deficit on the stressful days. Because why would you add more stress, right, of less calories on top of your stressful work? It's just not going to be sustainable. And one thing people get wrong is like making fat loss sustainable. You can make fat loss simpler, but fat loss by definition is not sustainable because you're giving your body a reason to adapt. And so your body is going through stress. It just depends on how you manage that stress your body goes through, right? So you can go in a super intense calorie deficit and your body will lose fat. You're putting your body under stress. You can go in a small calorie deficit and your body will lose fat. It's still going under stress. It's just the rate of which we lose fat. And again, like I mentioned before, we want to lose fat and not weight. So we have to take it in a very predictable and structured manner. That's when you get results, right? So what I mean by work schedule, it's not just looking at the stressful days, right? So look at like, how do you feel when you get home from work, right? Do you have a long commute? If you have a long commute, I want to make sure you're back to good energy levels. So I wouldn't have a position where you're not eating any food. I'd be like, okay, let's eat some food so we can fuel up again. Because the biggest thing is controlling our mind. Our mind is what controls us from not binge eating, right? And so we need to give it the easiest path to sustain this fat loss phase, right? If you're someone that has a very you start working early in the morning and you have intense meetings, you will forget about food during that time. So why would we eat, right? We can push those calories later on in the day, right? So this includes not only looking at your schedule, but your emotions too, right? So let's say on Friday, it's a very easy day. Work stops after like 2 p.m., right? And then after you just like chilling there, you know how it is sometimes in corporate, like sometimes you just act like you work. It happens to a lot. Happened to me, but but that's one of the biggest things, right? So if that's a very non-stressful day, we can go in more of a calorie deficit that day because you're able to sustain it. You don't have a lot of things going on in your mind, right? And so that's what I mean by looking at your work schedule. Even things such as like during your lunch break, right? So let's say there's like some sort of food that they give at work and you want to eat that. Um, the best practice is to if that's something you really want to eat, like it's like, oh, this is like the best thing at work, and it's like along with the plan of losing fat, you can still incorporate it. But then we just deduct calories on the other days. You see how instead of us thinking about a calorie deficit per day, I'm thinking about weeks and months. That's how I can predict. Like I mentioned, in my offer, like if you don't lose 20 pounds in 6 months, um, it's literally a money back guarantee, right? I'm not trying to go into my offer, but that's how confident I am. That's why I'm saying that, right? Because I'm so confident in my ability that I don't think in days, I think in weeks, months, and years. Because everything is numbers, and I've been tracking and losing fat. Like I'm an expert at this, bro, right? Like I've lost fat so much times to the point where I know what the problem is by just looking from above. Like sometimes when you're in the actual situation, you don't know what the issue is, and that's where coach comes in, right? You look at the situation and I paint, okay, that's a problem, that's a problem. Let me see your schedule, okay, that's a problem. Let me see how you felt, yeah, that's a problem. And that's where the one-on-one coaching comes in because you get to really deep dive into what the actual situation is, right? Here's the thing, right? The issue is when you try and go all in and then give up for a couple months and come back, you don't have momentum. When you've been tracking food for 3 weeks, not tracking your food or even going off on track for a couple days is not bad. It's really not bad, right? So let's say you got sick. It's a flu, and you're necessarily not in the position to track your food, okay? But we've been tracking for a month prior. How does that ruin your progress? Because your intuition now is to eat healthy. You see how habit stacking always leads to greatness because you start becoming that person. It's that identity shift. You start like, okay, I'm still a guy that eats healthy. Like I'm still gonna prioritize this, right? And obviously like if it's something like a death or something, then obviously like we would like take a step back and make sure we're all good mentally to come back. But when we're talking about just like you having the flu, or you have to do parent-teacher interviews with your children, and you go to work, and then right after you have to go to the interview. It's like stressful, right? Like you have to commute here, commute there, and it's very stressful. And so the biggest practice on that is to have that identity shift to the point where you know that you need to eat healthy, right? And that just comes from planning ahead too, like meal prepping, right? A lot of my all my clients meal prep, right? And that's the biggest way to go around it. Oh, I don't want to meal prep. Well, that's why you're in the position you're in, right? If you want an elite level physique, or if you want to be treated as someone that has an elite level physique, and if you want to be treated as someone that takes himself seriously, you have to take yourself seriously. And that comes from taking habits to make that identity shift. You can't just say you want to be someone and not do the habits of someone that gets that respect, right? Um, and this one's pretty common, which is like cutting too hard. And you see this very often with like brown dudes, because we love to glorify the struggle. Like, oh, I'm pissed off, I'm gonna go all in. And it's very common as I coach guys too. They're like, oh, can I go on like 1,000 calorie deficit? We've been trying to do that for the past 4 years. Where has that led us? Where has that led us? Nowhere, right? And so that's one of the biggest things. Like, taking it too hard, your body starts to fight back. Like, it's like, yo, this is too much. If you can't even stick to eating healthy for a long period of time, what makes you think you could eat in 1,000 calorie deficit for a month long? Right? You need to stack habits. You need to first learn how to track food. Then you need to learn how to continuously eat healthy. Then you need to learn how to say a couple no's. Right? I'm not going to eat that cookie. I'm saying no because I'm making that identity shift. And then you slowly increase the intensity. When you try and go all in, that's when you stop, right? And you go in the cycle. And that's that all or nothing mindset. And we sometimes develop this from like our career, right? Like we're like, as a brown dude, like you're always pushed to do well in your career. And so that's like you go super hard in on that. Like you don't, like, yo, like, and a lot of it stems from insecurities, right? Like, um I'm sure a lot of brown dudes can relate, where like you're always put down by your parents if you don't get good grades, and that puts you down, right? And so it's important that you overcome that, right? Of like, oh, I need to prove these people wrong, I need to prove these people wrong. But it's like, when you really start to eat healthy, you start respecting yourself, and eventually you just don't give a fuck what people tell you. And so that's why we need to stop having this all or nothing mindset. Because let's say you go off track for one day, then you start thinking, oh, you messed up, and you start hating yourself because you're like, oh, they're right. But when you change that mindset to, it's just one bad meal, right? I've been locked in for 3 weeks, right? I'm making that identity shift. I'm working on it. That's when you start seeing results, because no one's perfect. I mess up too. I have a monthly shawarma cheat meal, if you guys didn't know. Every month I have shawarma. Um, and that's just a rule I gave to myself because I love shawarma, and and that's how you can actually sustain it, right? Like when you're going too restrictive. I mean, how was the last time you went on a calorie deficit? I'm sure you probably went too restrictive, or you tried going to super calorie deficit, and then you end up binging, right? You need to build layers and foundation. Like imagine you showing up to work. Say like the career you're in right now. Like let's say you didn't have a degree, you didn't have any work experience. You show up to the manager and say, "Can I work here?" They'd be like, no, right? Because you need to build the foundations. You need to learn multiplication, the subtraction, and then kindergarten, like, middle school, high school, university, masters, a junior level position, senior, and then like so on and so forth, right? You need to build the foundation. And that's the same thing with this. When you make that priority change, that's when you start seeing results. Because another thing is like, as a South Asian, like, I'm so like a lot of you guys can't name me four South Asians over the age of even 30 that's in like good condition, like have abs and muscle. Like no one cares about their fitness. Everyone's out of shape. That's why everyone has diabetes. Everyone has cholesterol, like it's very bad, right? And so clearly, if it's not working for them, it's not going to work for you. And so you need to make changes to actually make things work, right? So like this is literally how it was for me when I started, right? Like so I'd restrict hard, like I would go on like these crazy calorie deficit when I first started, and then the thing is, like, you'll have this motivation spark. You might see an edit online. You go for like 2 3 days. You stay consistent, and then it'll slowly burn out. It'll slowly burn out. You see some fast food restaurant over there, and then the weekend comes, and then you undo all that progress, right? So let's say, and that's what you have to think in weeks and months term, and not just a day term, right? So like if you literally go like, like let's say, right, let's say on Monday you eat 1,000 calories. Let me get my handy thing. So let's say on a month, okay. Yeah. So let's say on Monday you eat 1,000 calories. On Tuesday you eat 1,000 calories. On Wednesday, you eat 2,000 calories. On Thursday, you eat 3,000 calories. And then on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you eat 5,000 calories each. Instead of doing all that, imagine you just ate 2.5 k calories every single day. And even if it might be more than this, you're eating healthier foods and you're more energized. You see how that's a way better approach than whatever we've been trying to do of binge eating cycle? Because like I mentioned, it's not, the goal is not just weight loss, it's fat loss while building muscle so you feel energized. And so you need to have a structure and plan where you're eating consistent calories of healthy foods throughout the week instead of healthy foods for 3 days and then unhealthy for 4, because that undoes and makes the progress worse, because not only do you feel worse physically but also mentally, and that's huge because the downward spiral makes you feel like you can't accomplish it anymore. Trust me, I'm speaking this from experience. Like, I've been in these positions, and it's not just like not seeing results, but it's like the mental aspect. Like, you feel as if you're wasting time, and it's like the people that you constantly like might tell people like, oh, I'm trying to lose fat, I'm trying to do this, and like they constantly are putting in your face like, oh, how's your fat loss journey going? And it's frustrating to not see progress. Not only because you start hating yourself for messing up, but you also start hating the fact that you're not making progress and people are right. They guessed you, it got to me. Right. And that's why this is a very dangerous cycle. Right. And that's why like you need to be very careful whenever you see a binge eating cycle. You need to analyze it. Whenever my clients have, let's say, a binge eating cycle comes, like not everyone's perfect, right? Things happen. We analyze it and we don't make it happen again because of there's that one saying where it's like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, right? And so if we make the same mistake over and over again, it's like we're banging our heads on a wall expecting a different result. That's why you see people overweight for 20 plus years, because unfortunately, this is generally the cycle they go for 20 years. Like, they don't get out of the cycle, which is scary, right? And I'm fortunate to realize this earlier when I was struggling with this, that what I'm doing is not working, so let me fix it instead of doing the same thing over and over again. Because I promise you, not only does it hurt you mentally, not only does it hurt you physically, but also mentally, because it messes with your head, makes you think like you can't even get in shape. You start thinking like, I just want to lose 10 pounds. I just want to, be energized. But a few years back, you wanted to be in the best shape of your life, jacked, muscular, confident, right? You just start negotiating with your goals, and that's not what you want to do. You never want to negotiate in life with your goals. And so that's why like willpower is the wrong frame, because everyone has willpower for a couple of days, maybe weeks, but then there's emotions that you can't neglect. Your body has something called ghrelin, which is a hunger hormone. And so even if let's say you even lose the fat, like let's say like 20, like let's say like 6 months down the line, you lose 40 pounds of fat, right? You starve yourself. And a lot of people gain it right back because they have a hormone called ghrelin and they're not able to control it. And so they wasted not only 6 months, but they also wasted all their mental fortitude they had towards that, losing 40 pounds in 6 months. Because you lost weight, not fat, and built muscle while gaining energy. Two different things. Losing weight versus losing fat, building muscle, and gaining energy. Complete different things. And that's what you need to understand. And that's where many people make the mistake, right? Because your hormones are hormones. You can't change that. And so you need to work with your hormones. You need to understand these hormones. And that's why it's important to have your fats in check. It's important to have your protein in check, your carbs in check, your micronutrients in check, because you need to work with your hormones and your body. Because like I mentioned, fat loss is never sustainable. You could take it more intense or less intense, but at the end of the day, you're giving your body a reason to change, which is never sustainable. We can just make it simpler, right? And so it's very important that you analyze your hormones and fatigue. And dude, the biggest thing is environment, right? And I think that's one of the biggest things, like the people around you, especially even in your household. Like, if you have people that aren't along with your goals, it's going to be very tricky. And a lot of my clients kind of struggle with this. But the biggest thing is like we have a community in my mentorship where like we all push each other, and it's like it really guides us to like we're making the right decision. We're sharing our wins. Oh, I'm down 5 pounds. I'm down 10 pounds. Even wins like I said no to this work event food, these cookies. I get that pretty often in my group chat with my guys, and it really pushes you that what you're doing is right. Because you're going to have instances where you say no to, let's say, like ice cream or something. Let's say like at work, right? Like they're like, oh, let's go out for ice cream. And you say no, people are gonna look at you weird. They're gonna be like, yo, what's wrong with this guy? But again, you don't want to look like them because you face the consequences that you take. And so they're gonna look at you different, but in reality, you don't want to look like them. majority of people, not even work, majority of people in this world, they're overweight. And so you don't think you're gonna have friction when you make the choices you make. People are going to look at you different. And that's a good thing because you know you're changing and they remain in the same place forever. But you change. So that's a win for you. But you need to surround yourself around people with that mentality, right? That can even be simple as going to the gym and talking to people there, right? Usually people at the gym, again, you might have gym anxiety, but I promise you, they really do care for you. Because they've once been in your position. I've once been in your position. Like I mentioned, I went in that binge eating cycle. I've been lost on how to lose fat, not only by tracking food, but also with South Asian food. I've been through it. I've been through the mental struggle. I've been through the wasting time. It sucks. It sucks, dude. And so that's why environment is so important. So here's what actually works. Like I mentioned, one of the biggest things is going in a very steep calorie deficit, right? And so what I want you guys to do is first you need to actually track your food. You need to learn how to track your food because if you're not tracking your food, don't expect to be great at building muscle and fitness. Because again, if you don't track your finances, I'm sure your finances are horrible. There's genuinely guys out there when I ask them, "Yo, how are your finances?" They're like, "I don't know." They don't know where their money went. If you want to be successful, you need to track your stuff. That comes with finances and also your nutrition. If you don't track your nutrition, you can't expect great results. So first you need to learn how to track your nutrition. That's what I do with all my clients when we onboard. I'm like, hey, this is how you track your food. This is how we do it. This is how we do it. Walk them through. I've also been in a position where I was confused whether that was tracking South Asian food, especially when it came to curry. Like I was very confused when I first started, but I've been tracking food for 4 years, and so for me, it's much easier, right? So really just making sure you're tracking food. And literally, once you find calories where you sustain your body weight, so let's say you're 165, I want you to just go on a 100 calorie deficit. Build these wins. Oh, for a week, I stuck to a 100 calorie deficit. That's a 700 calorie deficit for the week. Instead of going for like a 1,000 calorie deficit for 3 days and then binge eating on a 3,000 calories surplus, which still leads to 700 calories for the week. You see how one leads to results by getting you more energy and one leads you to more negativity by going in that binge eating cycle. They're both in a 700 calorie deficit. But you see how it's not calories in versus calories out. It's more so getting these small wins to build your confidence to lose more fat. That's how you make it sustainable, right? And a flexible structure. This comes from not having the same calorie goal every day, right? A lot of my clients don't have the same calorie goal for every day. Some days we have more calories, some days we have less calories. It really depends on your schedule, how your stress levels are on certain days, how your stress levels are if they're high or low. That's one of the biggest things because if you have the same calories every day, your mindset is not going to be the same every day. Some days are going to be harder than others, and so you need to have that mindset of like, right, like this day is going to be harder, so I'm going to increase my calories 200 calories more, but then I'm going to decrease 300 on the next day because I have not much to do, right? That's how you do it. And this one's a huge one because again, like I mentioned, like South Asians love to glorify the struggle when fitness is actually easy. Like, it's simple, but it's not easy. It's like with anything in life, it's always the basics, right? And we always ignore the basics and look for the next best thing. But don't overly restrict your food. What I mean is, if you're going out with your friends that you haven't seen in 3 years, why would you go? Why like go enjoy it, right? That's because you want fitness to elevate your life. You don't want it to be your entire life. That's how you hate life. That's how you become what we call a gym cell, which is like all you do is go to the gym. We don't want to be that. We want to go out with their family. We want to spend time with their kids, right? And so it's important that we don't say no to these things, right? Like we want fitness to elevate our life, and so it's very important that you don't overly restrict. So if it comes to like, let's say you've always wanted to, like, let's say for the entire week, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you wanted to eat a piece of cookie and you didn't, and then on Saturday, Sunday, you eat like 2 boxes of cookies. That's what happens when you over restrict. If you want to have a cookie, have a cookie. That's like 300 calories max, right? Unless you have like a crumble cookie, which is like 1,000 calories. But if you have a normal cookie from like the supermarket or whatever, or even like Tim Hortons or any sort of restaurant, a fast food, they're usually around 300 calories. Other than crumble cookie. I don't like crumble cookie, but most of them are 300 calories. That's much better than eating 2 boxes of chocolate chip cookies, which is like 2,000 calories, right? You see how consistency always wins. Perfection is the enemy of progress, because you're going to go in the cycle of wanting to be perfect, but as you know, nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm calling myself. I'm not perfect. right? Like I'm telling you right now, I'm not perfect. I have days too, right? But it's because I have accepted these days, right? I've accepted that once a month I'm going to have shawarma. I'm going to eat a shawarma wrap. I've accepted it, right? I don't eat healthy every single, like I eat healthy. Like even when I go to shawarma, I make sure I make good choices, but I don't always eat my home cooked meals every single day. Obviously, I'm a little bit more intense with like the bodybuilding approach, so most of my days are on point. But again, like you don't have to be like every day broccoli, rice, chicken, broccoli, rice, chicken. Even like none of my guys eat broccoli, rice, chicken. So some guys have like Indian food in there. Some of my guys have like rice, shrimp. It really depends on the food sources you love, and that's how you can build your meal plan. Like you have to look at what food sources you love, so you can actually have results that are consistent. You enjoy, you get energy, you lose fat, and build muscle. That's the process, not lose weight. And so let's say you have a long shift day, right? So let's say like one of the days, or let's say one of my physicians, so he has like 12-hour intense days and then like a week off. And so for those 12-hour days, the 12 days, we kind of looked into a schedule. We noticed that the 3 days that ended were very hard to meal prep. And so for those 3 days, we got meal prep services. The other days, we meal prepped. And we made a meal prep where it's easy for him. So overnight oats was very easy for him to make. He loves like sweet potatoes, so we included sweet potatoes. Like you need to find a meal plan that you'll enjoy and easy to make on these stressful days. It's very important you do that. And you need to remove friction points. So for him, for instance, like he forgets about drinking water in these intense days. So we have non-negotiable water intakes. So and breakfast, 500 milliliters, lunch, 500 milliliters, dinner, 500 milliliters. And then he has a non-negotiable electrolyte water drink. This removes friction from your mind to make decisions because when you're stressful, your mind wants to put it off. Like, oh, I'm tired. I'm gonna just do it later. And that's how you get that inconsistency, right? When you don't give your a body choices, the less choices you make, the less friction you have because you just have to do it. Oh, Kira told me to do this. Okay, I'll just do it. It's already done for me. Like you just have to do it, right? The food's already made. It's in the like it's all there. I'm gonna just eat it, right? Less friction points is the best thing to do, right? And on these stressful weeks, it depends, right? Obviously, when I say lower the bar, we're not average, right? If you want to get in shape, you're not gonna be average. You want to be exceptional, man. But what I mean by lower the bar is some days are going to be more hardcore than other days. Sometimes you're not gonna have the best workout. Sometimes you're gonna have the best workout, right? And so you can't let that get into your head, right? And that's one of the biggest things. Like with fitness, it's like a mindset shift. You can't let things get to your head. If you have a bad week, you cannot let that get to your head. Because I've been in positions where I let it get to my head, and then literally for 2 weeks, I would not stick to a diet. I wouldn't go to fitness because I was like, it's not for me. Until I realized, no, this is for me. I'm going to make it work, right? And so you can't let none of this get to your head, and that comes from the upward spiral. Constantly getting wins to prove to yourself that you can do it. And that's through stacking habits one at a time to get that confidence, right? And that's the biggest thing, man. Like I mentioned, the mindset shift. Like you need to start tracking to understand nutrition. People want to say, oh, tracking nutrition is about eating disorder. They're fat, right? Like they're overweight. They're not at the best position they can possibly be. And so you're tracking to understand what you're putting into your body. When you think of it from that perspective, and you're like, my body deserves better, you start respecting your body. But what you can't do is punish yourself, go in a deep calorie deficit, and say, even if you're tracking calories, I'm doing this because I hate how I look. That puts you in the binge eating cycle. That's why fitness is so powerful, because it's that self-improvement journey which gives you confidence, because you start believing like, yeah, I deserve more confidence. I take myself more serious. And that's why you need to switch your mindset of I track to understand and not track to punish, right? And at the end of the day, progress is always better than perfection. Um, I'm sure like in any journey you've had, I'm sure you've had a journey of learning anything, right? And when you first try something, you're not going to be good at it, right? The more you try something is when you realize that you can actually get better at it. And so you need to accept the journey and the self-improvement and not go from it in a self-hatred standpoint. Like I mentioned, man, like the ghrelin hormone, people just think, oh, I just gained fat. It just happened. I lost the fat, and then after like few months in, I just got fat again. But that's not true, because your ghrelin hormone rises when you're hungry, and that's the reason a lot of people get fat, because they don't know how to manage it. And so when people work with me, there's a fat loss phase while building muscle, and then there's a primary focus on building muscle once we get down fat, and then there's a lean bulk stage. that's when many people mess up, because when you learn how to lose fat, you need to learn how to keep the fat off, and that's a whole nother skill. That's making sure your micronutrients, your macros, your sleep, everything is all like very good. Especially your macro micronutrients need to be dialed in for you to have that in check. And that's why I keep saying it. It's fat loss while building muscle to get energy, and not just weight loss. Because when you have weight loss, your macros and micronutrients are probably horrible, and you're just focusing on starving yourself to the point where you don't actually make progress towards the goals you want. I get it all the time. Like, yeah, man, I lost 20 pounds, but you had no energy. You gained it back. You stopped. It didn't work. You can't say that in an accomplishment way, because it just never worked, right? And so for you to keep trying that method because you lost 20 pounds, it's kind of foolish, because if you couldn't keep it off, that method didn't work. So why would you keep trying it? You need to make sure your diet is in check, not just looking at the calorie number, but what you're actually putting into your body to make sure you can control it. Because like I mentioned, your body, when you lose fat, it's not sustainable. And so there's a stress called cortisol. Your cortisol increases when you're losing fat. And so you need to manage that. And that's why, like I mentioned, we look into your schedule, make sure you can manage that calorie deficit, because if your work is if your work is stressful, you know, the stuff outside of work is stressful, plus the diet is stressful with cortisol increase, yeah, it's gonna be very hard. And that's why you need to manage the three variables to make it actually sustainable. Like I mentioned, man, people love to have that labeling of like, high protein chips, right? But it's like, that's not what it is. Most of my diet, like I'll give you guys a breakdown of my diet, right? I have oats, I have rice cakes, I have nuts, I have sweet potatoes, I have chicken, I have eggs. These are all whole foods. In terms of ultra processed foods, there's none in my diet. Now I'm not restrictive, so let's say like once in a blue moon, like once every couple months, I want to have a chocolate, I'll have it, right? But again, like if you want to get to the next level, like most of your food needs to be whole foods, and that's when your energy actually gets better. Because there's one thing where you chase short term dopamine of just eating ultra processed, versus respecting your body, in that mindset shift, like I mentioned, respecting your body, tracking food to learn and progress, and also having the energy which gives you motivation to keep going. When you get that energy spark after eating healthy for even a week, you'll realize that you'll never want to go back. I can't look at ultra processed food the same. I can't. Like it's just like I look at it like it's disgusting. Like how did I let myself get to that? Because the way you feel when you eat whole foods is just another level. And it takes time to really understand that, because you're going to be in a position where um you might have always ate ultra processed food, so it's hard to overcome that limiting belief. Once you really understand that it is worth it by seeing results, you'll continuously go, right? And when we talk about fat loss, there's also when you time your foods when it comes to macros, right? I'll make another video on that more in depth, because first I just wanted to lay down the foundations of what a calorie is and why people mess up on fat loss goals. Because if you don't have the basement when you build these knowledge, it's like we can't expect results. Like everyone wants to go to the extreme, like, oh, I want to look like Brad Pitt from Flight Club, but we don't know how to track nutrition, right? Like you need to build these foundations, dude. Right? Like your goal, if it's here and your actions are here, you can't expect to just become like this. You need to take elite level action to have elite level results, right? That's how you just get to the next level, man. That's really just how you get to the next level, right? When we talk about macros, you want to make sure protein is spaced around the times you're most hungry. So if you're very hungry during lunch, that's when you put the protein in. And carbs are timed around the time you need more energy. I don't want to bore you guys too much on, I don't want to bombard you guys with a lot of information in this video. So I'll keep that to that like a, what do you call it? Like a trailer for the next video. So stay tuned for that. I'll make more on how to time your protein, carbs, and fats for the best results of losing fat, building muscle, and keeping energy instead of just losing weight. And the only way you can actually see consistent results is if you have consistent actions, you have consistent targets, you have consistent habits to actually get throughout. And that's why, like, the way I coach my guys are habit stacking. So first we look into nutrition, make sure you can stick to that. Then we increase your steps. Then we look into your sleep, and then we look into your water intake, and then we look into your gym output. See if you're performing. Like everything is structured so you can actually have sustainable for lifetime lock-in. That's why phase 3 is lifetime lock-in, right? Because after that point, like it should be like that's just a part of you. Like, oh, that's me. Like Kiru, he's a fitness guy. That's lifetime lock-in. That's phase 3. and it's important you have action items, right? Like all my clients have action items. Every single day they know what to do. They have it all laid out for them, right? And it's just completing the task. If they break it, we look into why they broke it, and we don't let it happen again. I hold all my clients to a high standard because that's what I hold myself to. And so if I hold myself to a high standard, why would I not hold my clients to a high standard? Makes no sense. And so yes, we're going to, if you want to have like a piece of cookie here and there, we can, right? Want to over restrict, but we also don't want to be average. And so if you don't want to be average, you can't take average results. And so that's what you need to keep understanding about building a flexible structure is making sure you can integrate into your life, but still see results that you're happy with. And yeah, man, like you always see like the guy that just shows up always beats the guy that's talented. Talent, oh, hard work, just showing up always beats talent. Like I always said that I'm not the most genetic dude. If you guys don't know my whole story, I wasn't the athletic dude growing up. I was the overweight kid. I wasn't confident. I made so many videos on that, like just Apple Watch and one of the biggest things, like I showed up, right? Instead of restarting and making no progress. I just showed up every day. I learned from my mistakes. I didn't just accept these mistakes as some sort of like, oh, it's just this one time it happened. I know what to do. I just need to lock in. You know how much times I heard that? I know what to do. I just need to lock in. Sure, buddy. Sure, buddy. You said that for the past 10 years. What are we doing? What are we doing? Why haven't you stuck to it? There's a difference between knowing versus actually executing. And that comes from consistency by planning and structuring around your emotions, your schedule, and just life outside of work as well. Because that's when you can actually stick to it and see how you can improve. If you don't have data, as a coach, I look at and if a client tells me like, oh, I messed up here, I first look at the data. I'm like, okay, let's look at the data. Data's not tracked. What are we doing? Let's look at the data. I make sure every single day they track the data. Look at the data. Okay, now tell me exactly how you felt on this day, right? Emotions, data, put it together, schedule, lifestyle, boom, execution. That's how you make progress. Progress compounds, right? Like there's a difference between a guy that loses 20 pounds by starving himself versus a guy that took a steady, built muscle in the process and lost the same 20 pounds in, let's say, 4 months. There's a difference between losing 20 pounds in 4 months while building muscle versus starving yourself for 1 month and thinking you did something, but you just go back to the cycle of just not feeling good. And so that's what I really want you guys to understand from me, right? You need to have a good relationship with food when it comes to losing fat. And I'm saying this from experience because I've had bad relationships with food before where like I look at food and I'm like, I'm gonna starve myself today because I ate a lot yesterday and then I end up binge eating again the next day and then that cycle just repeats. And again, like not only does it affect your energy in terms of your body and how you feel, but also mentally. Like you're like, okay, I can't do this. Like fitness is just not for me. And it really messes you up. Like it really does. You start having this bad relationship with food. But you need to switch the mindset of I'm just learning what I'm putting in my body. So I'm going to track my food because I respect myself. I'm going to be a guy that embraces the healthy journey. I'm going to be a guy that wants to change. I want to be a guy that isn't average. I want to be a guy that is going to create something that's sustainable while enjoying his life and can make fitness elevate his life. That's when you can actually see progress. It's that mindset shift. A lot of my clients, like they all go through this mindset shift of like how they saw fitness because what goes viral on like let's say like Instagram Reels is like those gym edits that make it hardcore. I mean, sure, like you're going to have friction, you're going to have to change, but it's simple. It's the basics. Track your food, eat healthy, right? Make it sustainable. Don't go too off track. Like it's really the basics. When you master this, that's when you see results because there's no special hack. There's people that ask me, "Yo, Kira, what was the special diet?" It's a healthy one that I can stick to. That's when you actually see results. And so that's the biggest takeaway from here, right? Calories are data. Um, Again, like there's a difference between eating 2,000 calories of bullshit and losing weight versus 2,000 calories of healthy food, which gives you energy and build muscle in the process. Um, there's a whole biology behind the whole binge eating process. I'm not gonna bore you guys with all that stuff. I don't think I even want to go an hour long on that, but I'm sure you guys don't want to hear it too. But you have your hormones, you need to balance it. I kind of touched base on it with the ghrelin hormone and also your cortisol as well. So you need to adapt with your body because fat loss is never sustainable. So don't make it even harder. And again, man, consistency over everything. And that's the biggest takeaway I want you guys to take from here. Don't build a bad relationship with food. Embrace the calories, embrace your journey. Think in terms of weeks, days, think in terms of weeks, months, years, and decades instead of days, because that's when people get the farthest, when they think ahead of time. And so, if you guys learned a lot from this video, catch you guys on the next one. If you guys do want to ask me any questions on Instagram, feel free to shoot me a message. I respond to all DMs. I get you guys a little late. I'm sorry, but I usually respond pretty fast. If you have any questions, feel free to reach over there, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.